Today we're going to be preparing a wild venison bourguignon. Now that's a take on a French classic of beef bourguignon, and the heart of it is just an incredibly rich red wine. I can imagine the first time that this was made was probably outdoors just like this. It's a peasant dish, it's a simple dish. It sounds very elegant, and Julia Child made it famous. But for you and for I, this is a really great way to use a cut of venison that would be a little bit more tough. So we're going to use part of the shoulder. It's a venison roast. And cutting it down into small cubes means it's going to be bite-sized, but cooking it over a long period of time is going to break it down and make it really nice and tender. Now, the first step is to get started with the bacon. It's classic. I've got a smoked bacon, and all I have to do is slice it up into lardons, which is small slices of bacon, and then get it heated on the fire. When you're slicing bacon, try to make sure that it's chilled. That chilled bacon slices up really easy because the fat is cold. And this is exactly the size that you're going to want to put in. Bite-sized pieces, lardons. One of the great things about these tripods over the fire is you can adjust the height of the chain. Now, one of the things that's going to get away from me if I'm not careful is the heat. So you can see that's already smoking hot. And as I put that bacon in, you can hear it searing already. The advantage of using the chain is I can always lift it up higher off the surface of the fire. You can see how quickly that fat begins to render. And what I want here is I want that bacon to be crisped up nicely, and then I'll pull it out so it doesn't overcook. Just take the stem and quarter the mushrooms. That way they're nice bite-sized pieces. As I sit here this morning, I can hear the birds singing. I can tell spring is in the air, but it's still chilly, so this is a perfect dish for this afternoon. Now, a classic way to do the pearl onions would be to blanch them. If you're inside, blanch them for about 10 seconds and then put them in chilled water and those skins come off. But out here, outdoors, you're not gonna fuss with that, so I'll show you how to do it. Take off the bottom, the stem, and then slice them in half. And when you do, it exposes the beautiful inside. But then you can just very simply take the edge of it, peel it back, and what you'll be left with is that beautiful half onion. I love it. Keeps it simple. Just fishing this bacon out now, you can see it's nice and crispy, all the flavors developed. If I need to keep the temperature of this oil under control, I'll just raise this pan up. All right, time for the mushrooms to go in. They're going into that hot oil. The nice thing about the mushrooms is that they're almost completely water. So what will happen now is it's gonna bring up any of those nice little crispy bits of bacon off the bottom, but I wanna make sure to develop level flavors at every level to ensure that I've got the maximum amount of flavor. Okay, now with these beautiful mushrooms finished, I'm gonna take them out. If I was just to put the mushrooms in raw, they wouldn't have developed this beautiful flavor. Now it's time to go in with the onions. Now for the carrots. All I want to do is just slice them into rings. There's no need to peel them. I want a really nice rustic presentation. And all you have to do is slice them up and get them in with the onions. Now for the cubed venison, you can see the bite-sized pieces. They'll shrink a little bit as the water comes out of them. I've got some all-purpose flour, and I'm just gonna dust them lightly. The reason I'm doing this is this flour will eventually help to thicken the sauce, essentially making a roux. The other thing that it'll do initially is it will brown nicely. So I'm gonna get a level of flavor plus a level of texture because it's going to thicken this beautiful bourguignon. Now I've got pork fat in the pan from the bacon, but what I want to add now is a good heaping tablespoon of butter. I want to add that butter now because I want the flavor, but I do not want it to burn. I'm going to move these vegetables to one side as soon as it's melted, and then in goes the venison. For seasoning, I've got some fine ground pepper and also some salt. I'm using pink Himalayan here. Make sure that you get plenty of salt in there. That meat is thick, there's large pieces. You want to make sure to develop flavor and get it seasoned before you finish the stew. While the venison is sauteing and coloring, I'm going to break up some garlic here. Break the garlic clove out, trim the base off, slice it in half, and then just simply peel it. Once it's peeled, take a larger knife, and I just like nice little slices. There's no need to grind this fine, I wouldn't mind to have these nice little chunks. With the garlic in, one of the things you're gonna want to do, and everybody does, you're gonna wanna have a look at what that venison is doing. The most important thing to do at this point is to not touch it. When you let the venison saute in that pan, it's gonna develop flavor. If you keep picking it up, it won't get that really rich sauce, and you'll be really disappointed. But let's have a look at where it is right now. The flavor base of bay leaves and parsley and fresh thyme are really gonna make this fragrant. You can see before I even add any wine or liquid how rich that sauce is. Now, it's time to go back in. The mushrooms and bacon are going back in. If you could smell this, it smells absolutely incredible. Now, mixed all together, the next step is to deglaze, and this is where it becomes a Bourguignon. I've got a deep Burgundy wine, and I'm gonna deglaze that pan. It's gonna have a big drink of this wine, and I'm gonna save some to serve, and then top it up with water, and the amount of water is just enough to cover. Wild game is really like nothing else you've ever enjoyed before. A tip that I want to share with you is when you're using venison, you want to make sure to remove all the tallow. A common mistake is to leave what is thought to be fat on the venison for flavor, when in fact it is tallow. It's waxy and it's what gives venison that gamey taste. So I want you to get that off. Let's have a look at what this Bourguignon has finished up. Oh, look at that. That sauce is rich and thick. It's beautiful. I'm gonna leave it uncovered for about 10 to 15 minutes to reduce to the right consistency. I'm telling you, this venison is going to be melt in your mouth good. You have to try this wild to table recipe, wild venison Bourguignon.